Good evening and welcome to episode 3 of the Stadium Ranters. I am your host, Wayne Gregoire. I am a featured writer and editor at stadiumrant.com, the worldwide leader in great sports content. I am joined today by 3 great writers slash podcasters. Can't wait to get into our topics today. And before I explain the rules, let's go around the horn and introduce everybody, starting with Brad.
Hey guys, it's Brad. I do a show called College Sportscast. You can find me on Facebook and YouTube mainly. Also, Stadium Rant Writer. Can't talk tonight, but look us up.
Gabriel.
Oh, my name's Gabriel, Curious Sports Pulse. You can find us on X at Sports Pulse 100 and on the YouTube, Curious Sports Pulse. Thank you, Wayne.
Yeah, I like the voice. It's like a very, FM radio voice. Michael, what's up?
All right, make me follow the FM radio voice. That's just great. So, Mike Ballantyne, I am one half of the 643 and Out guys with myself and Mitch Middlebrook. We do a show for www.welikesportspc.com, and sports is spelled SPORTZ for everything I'll talk about. So we're on YouTube, we're on X at D643 and Out Pod. You can also find us on Facebook and Apple Podcasts. Once again, all of those you can search The Sports, SPORTZ, Truth, and you'll find us there.
Outstanding. Now, obviously, if you are a sports writer yourself or a podcaster, sports podcast, you want to get into this. I am always looking for new guests every week. We try to keep it like around the horn, get some different guests in here. We are going to start having some repeat guests, I'm sure, at some point, because there's only so many people out there. But the way the game works is I'm going to introduce a topic to the panel. Each person gets 60 seconds to give their thoughts on the topic. Then we're going to come back around and have a 30-second, what I call rebuttal round. In case somebody says something and you want to debate what they said, you can certainly feel free to do that. Without further ado, let's dive into our first topic. The New England Patriots have fired head coach Jarod Mayo minutes after he beat the Buffalo Bills to go 4-13 on the season. He replaced Bill Belichick after a 4-13 season. Now, the team didn't fix their offensive line. They drafted a quarterback who wasn't expected to play until October. The best free agent they signed was Antonio Gibson, and yet he still went 4-13. He had a better scoring offense than Bill Belichick did last year. Brad, we're going to start with you. Did Jarod Mayo get a raw deal in New England?
My answer is simply yes. I mean, he played there. The owner has known Jarod Mayo for basically his entire career, and I feel like 1 year. I mean, that's all he got was 1 year on a team that, to be quite honest with you, I mean, I think everybody that's an NFL fan, much less in Boston, knew that this team wasn't going to be in playoff contention before the season ever began. And he not only improved the team, I mean, they had a better overall record than what Belichick had last year, and he had 1 year with owners that he knew and that knew him. And in my opinion, you got to give a young head coach like that, you got to give him more than one season, especially when you didn't expect to have a playoff type season to begin with.
100% agree. Gabriel, your thoughts?
No, he didn't get the raw end of the deal whatsoever. This team came out unprepared each and every week. Every week, there was a new fire to be put out that was mainly caused by him. I can't tell you how many times I listened to him at press conferences saying, what did you just say? He walks it back, and the team tries to cover for him. It was a disaster. Moreover, Robert Kraft said the only thing that was needed, that the team was close. The team just needed to get rid of Bill Belichick. This was the missing piece to everything. And we all saw what happened when Bill Belichick left the building. He did not get the raw of the deal. This team was utterly unprepared. It really lacked development. And the only time they showed up seemingly ready for the game was week 18 when they needed to lose. So I absolutely am okay with him being fired, bringing Mike Vrabel to New England. What's more, I could say that I'm a Pats fan.
I am a Pats fan as well. I have some thoughts on it. We may get into that. With that said, Michael, I'm going to get your thoughts. Did Jarod Mayo get a raw deal?
Well, of course he got a raw deal. I mean, come on. Brad knows it. Gabriel knows it. Wayne, you know it. He got a raw deal. He didn't even get a full year. Everybody's like, oh, well, he got a year. No, technically, he only had 355 days from the day in which he was hired to the day in which he was fired. So he didn't even get a full year. He was pegged right away with unrealistic expectations. Those are the two words I would use here to really describe this. What did they think he was going to be the next 6-time Super Bowl winning coach? I mean, come on. What's he being compared to with only being given 1 year? There's nothing to compare him to. New England is like the land of misfit toys right now. And Robert Kraft is a see and say. Did you see him in his press conference? It's like people were just pulling the string on his back. For those of you who don't know what a see and say is, maybe some of you young crunks can go on Google and Google that for us. But it's like he's just pulling the string out of his back, and he says things like, "Oh, well, he just needed more time before taking the job," and he said things like, "This whole situation is on me," and all this stuff, right? So he even said that our drafts have not been good in a while. Yet he fired Jarod Mayo after 1 season.
Well, we're going to go back around the horn here with a 30-second timer, but feel free to use that liberally because I know we have some stuff to get to, and we do have a little bit of disagreement. Obviously, I want to bring up the fact that, I think he got a raw deal as a Patriots fan. That doesn't mean that they made the wrong decision. It just meant that they gave him a raw deal. Because what I really think, and you guys can chime in on this is just my thought, I think that they wanted Mike Vrabel as the head coach last year, but they were contractually obligated to give it to Jarod Mayo. They didn't want to do that, so they did it begrudgingly. They were going to fire him after the season, barring him win the Super Bowl. That's what I think. And they were going to go get Mike Vrabel. That's why Vrabel didn't sign with anyone last year, because he was waiting for this Patriots job to open up. That's my thought. Brad, what are your thoughts?
I want to say this. Robert Kraft saying, well, it was on him. Of course it's on him. He's the owner. I mean, come on. Like, I don't understand. Of course it's on him. And on top of that, I mean, you're talking about Vrabel. I mean, when you go out and you hire a guy like this, especially somebody new, that's a head coach, I mean, you've got to know that it's going to take more than 1 year. You didn't hire somebody with experience. You hired somebody brand new to head coaching experience. Of course, this is on Robert Kraft.
Gabriel, your thoughts on what Brad's saying here, as well as your thoughts on, was this a setup because Vrabel was the guy all along?
Yeah, I don't view it as a raw deal because he probably shouldn't have had this chance in the first place. So yeah, of course he was set up for failure, but he wasn't ready to be a head coach. And this was very clear to me when we had the whole conversation about who's starting the QB. At first, it was a committee, and then it all fell on his shoulders. And we have a plan for Drake May, but then as soon as the pitchforks were out around week 4, week 5, then all of a sudden Drake May's the starter. So he's just not ready to be a head coach, and that's okay. So just because contractually he was set up to fail doesn't mean that now he got the raw end of the deal. It just means they're kind of righting a wrong.
Yeah. And Michael, your thoughts on the entire situation with the final 30 seconds-ish?
Well, I appreciate you giving me the final word here. This is great. So, hey, yes, I tell you what, he was given the raw end of the deal. You're 100% right. Do I think he was set up from the beginning? Absolutely. Do I think that Kraft basically promised Belichick that he would hire Mayo and then couldn't go back on that promise? Absolutely. I also think there was false hope given, something nobody's brought up yet. The worst thing that could have happened to them was beating the Bengals week 1. Because then they're like, oh, well, maybe we're not as bad as we thought we were, and maybe we can win every week, and maybe. So you had false hope, you had a flawed roster, and just like Gabriel said, man, just hire Vrabel already. Let's get this done.
Vrabel and Josh McDaniels. I'm hoping he comes. If he comes along, I won't be that sad because I really love Josh McDaniels as an OC. Wouldn't want him as a head coach, but as an OC, I'm a big fan of his. With that said, let's dive into...
How many times has he been there as the OC?
A few, because I think he went to Denver, and then he came back, and then he went to Vegas. So really twice.
Part 15.
So third time's the charm.
I mean, the first 2 times worked out great. I mean, look how good, Mac Jones was the 1 year he had McDaniels calling the plays for him, and then McDaniels leaves. He turns into absolute garbage. All right, getting into the next topic, similar but different. The New York Giants went 3-14, worse than the Patriots after going 6-11 in 2023. Despite that, Brian Daboll and Joe Schein are keeping their jobs. Now, Daboll has a career record of 18-32 with the Giants. Last year, they had the 31st ranked offense. It was worse than the Patriots. 21st ranked defense. Schein is the guy that gave Daniel Jones that 4-year, $160 million contract. I'm going to start with Gabriel. What the hell is going on in New York?
Yeah, we want to talk about raw end of the deal. New York Giants fans are getting the raw end of the deal here. You absolutely have no idea of why Joe Schoen is still in the building. He can leave. I'm okay with giving Daboll a little bit of grace. I'm a little higher on him than most. I'll admit this. I think he's squeezing the most lemon juice that you can out of completely rotten lemons. That's not an analogy, but we'll pretend it's one for this segment. So I think you can go ahead with Daboll, see what he does with their upcoming first round QB, see if it's a total disaster, and then move on. So I'm okay with giving him one last lifeline. But Joe Schoen, yeah, forget it, man. I don't know. I don't know what we're thinking. Did we not? Did none of us get? Did Hard Knocks air in New England or in New York? I don't know. Did it?
It did, actually. And I remember watching Hard Knocks and thinking, boy, there's just a bunch of incompetent people in that organization. Every episode I watched it. Michael, your thoughts on the situation in New York?
Well, I think you hit it right on the head there at the end, Wayne. There is a lot of incompetency in this football team in New York, right? It goes from a quarterback that nobody wanted them to draft in the beginning and tried to tell everybody this is not going to be your guy, and they didn't listen. They said, this is not the coach for you to get. And they said, hey, we're going to do what we want. And they did. They did what they want, and now they're falling on their face for it. Why are those guys still there? This is the complete and utter opposite of the segment we had just a second ago with Mayo. Mayo was not given a chance. These guys have been given 4 years worth of chances together and have done worse than what the Patriots did. They've done absolutely nothing, and they let the best guy in the room get away. How dumb was that?
Absolutely. And Brad, your thoughts on the New York Giants and their situation?
Well, I mean, what I said with the Mayo situation was he got 1 year and got a raw deal. Well, I mean, here, these guys have had 3 or 4 years and are incompetent. I mean, to be quite honest with you, and everybody that is not blind can see it, to be quite honest with you. I mean, my only thing is they do have a good wide receiver room, and apparently, as far as the coach, as far as Daboll here, apparently maybe the players are backing him or something. I mean, that's the only thing that I can think of the reason why that they might keep him is maybe because they do have some pieces, especially in the wide receiver room, I think to build upon, and maybe, just maybe here, the players are backing him up.
All right, I think that could be the case. I'm actually going to make this kind of a two-part question, which is why I'm going to give you guys 60 seconds instead of 30 as we go back around the horn. Obviously, the defense has been tailor-made to be a stifling defense with Ojulari, Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, right? You've got the secondary. They drafted a cornerback, I think, last year or 2 years ago. This team is built defensively. They've got a decent, offensive line. It's not horrible like the Patriots offensive line. My question for you is this. They have a top 5 pick in this draft. Gabriel, going back to you, are the Giants just a quarterback away?
I think so, because we've seen in a lot of games the defense kept them in the defense played a lot of minutes with completely incompetent quarterback play. And this is why I side with Daboll over Schoen. For sure, Schoen needs to go. I'm okay with giving Daboll a little more of a leeway. I mean, we saw how close this team has been in a lot of games with Daniel Jones, with Tommy DeVito. Imagine if you add just talent and a little bit of young athleticism. I think you can flip a lot of these games. I really do. And for sure, the defense is going to be they're going to go into MetLife saying, "Oh, thank God, we don't have to play 50 minutes today, boys, on the field. This is great." So I think you give it a shot, and I think you are closer to being just a quarterback away than what it may initially appear.
And Michael, your thoughts on that being a quarterback away? Obviously, it could be Cam Ward, it could be Shadur Sanders, it could be Kirk Cousins. is this team a quarterback away from the playoffs?
I'm glad you brought that up because I was getting ready to ask you, are they a veteran quarterback away or are they a drafted quarterback away? I don't think they're a drafted quarterback away. I do. I think a couple of those names that you just brought up, maybe even, what if Joe Flacco goes back there and redoes his career again, right? Well, you said it. A couple of those other guys that can go back there. I think you could give it a shot, like Gabriel was saying earlier. You could give it a shot with that because, yes, they do have a good defense. But so does Pittsburgh. You give them a shot versus Baltimore tomorrow? No, right? I mean, at least I don't. I don't give them a shot at all versus them tomorrow. So you've got to have. You don't necessarily have to have a complete package, but in that division with the Washington Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles, okay, you might be able to go ahead of the Dallas Cowboys. But even with a good veteran quarterback, I'm not sure if they go any further than just not in last place in that.
Well, that's a good point. You look at their division, Brad. I mean, obviously they're in there with the Washington Commanders. They're in there with the Cowboys. They're in there with the Eagles, right? I mean, if you give this team a quarterback, whether it is a Kirk Cousins or a Jameis Winston, who's going to give you 350 yards, 3 picks, and 3 touchdowns a game, is this team a quarterback away from the playoffs, or no matter who they add to call the plays, it doesn't matter?
I mean, I think that Michael's onto something here. I mean, for me, if I look at the draft picks available here at quarterback, I'll be honest with you guys. I don't see a Bo Nix or Jaden Daniels in this draft class for quarterbacks. I don't see somebody that's going to be that good as far as taking the team to the playoffs. That's what I mean when I say that. I'm not saying talent-wise. I'm just saying getting a team to the playoffs. I just don't see it like we have with Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels this year. So, to your point here, Michael, I mean, maybe I'll surprise everybody here. Maybe it's Aaron Rodgers. Let's throw that out. I mean, maybe Aaron Rodgers goes to New York and goes to the Giants here. I mean, I'm just throwing it out. I mean, I would take a veteran if it was me for this Giants team. I think they have the wide receivers, the defense, and I would take a veteran.
And I do have to point out, because Michael did bring up the Baltimore Ravens, and as a Patriots fan, I remember years ago in the draft, they had 2 first-round picks in the draft, and I remember thinking, oh boy, we're going to get Lamar Jackson. Here we go. And then it came down, and I was like, who's Isaiah Wynn? And then a few picks later, I'm like, all right, well, we got another chance at Lamar Jackson. Sony Michel? What? So the Patriots had their chance to get him, but I'm very disappointed. And I was even hoping that they were going to pay him $55 or $60 million this offseason to get him.
I think you're okay on your quarterback of the future, though. That's probably the best thing that New England can really hang their hat on right now.
Now, the next topic, we're going to switch sports a little bit, and we're going to get into basketball. Now, LeBron James just passed Michael Jordan for the most career 30-point games, 563. And it begged the question that obviously he's passed Michael Jordan several different categories, most consecutive double-digit scoring games. Michael Jordan's record was 866. LeBron has 1,253. He is the NBA's all-time leading scorer. He's 4th all-time in assists. I believe that Michael Jordan became the greatest basketball player of all time once the Wilt Chamberlain people who saw Wilt Chamberlain play started to die off and lose interest in the game. I'm wondering, I'm going to start with Michael, is that going to happen to Michael Jordan as his fans get older, lose interest in basketball, and start dying off? Is LeBron James going to become the greatest player of all time in the majority of people's eyes?
Well, of course LeBron James has more 30-point games. And of course LeBron James has more points. LeBron James has played 22 seasons. Michael played 15. He's played 1,525 games, and Michael only played 1,072. That's 453 more games. Don't do unfair comparisons, people. Jordan, 2 more championships and 1 more MVP. Minutes played. LeBron is at 57,749, and Jordan was at 41,011. But if you dig into some deeper stats, things that you can do, even though it's 22 to 15 and things like that. Player efficiency rating. LeBron's 27. Jordan is 27.9. True shooting percentage, but takes into effect 2-point shots, 3-point shots, and field goals. They're almost even, 590 to 569. And if you're going to tell me that he's got more points and more this and more that, you also have to say that he's lost more. Jordan lost 366 games, and LeBron's lost 542.
All right. Brad, your thoughts on LeBron James potentially becoming the world's GOAT at some point?
All right. So you're talking about the older crowd. I feel like I'm part of that older crowd to start with. So, I mean, I'm 50. So I feel like I'm part of that older crowd. I remember, the Showtime Lakers and the Boston Celtics, and I can go pretty far back. So, I mean, I'm with you, Michael, here. I mean, yes, he played 7 more seasons than Michael Jordan and still playing. I mean, the other day he said he might have 5 to 7 more years. All I'm going to say is good luck with that. From the time I turned 40 to the time I turned 50 was a huge, huge difference. All I can say to that is good luck with playing 5 to 7 more years. He just turned 40. There is no way he's playing 5 to 7. He might squeeze 2. He might squeeze 2 years, but there's no way he's playing. And as far as the greatness, I'm going to be honest with you, Wayne. I don't have him there. I probably won't ever have him there, but you may be right on the topic that the younger crowd will one day put him there.
All right. And Gabriel, I'm going to give you your thoughts. You seem like the younger one in the group here. So your thoughts on, could LeBron James at some point, like Michael Jordan right now, considered the greatest of all time, will it be LeBron James 5-10 years down the road?
Yeah, that's just natural. You have the crowd who says it's Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain. Then as that crowd gets older, then MJ takes over. You could have a Larry Bird shout too, and that just comes with time. Kobe Bryant, AI for some, and so now as the new generation, they come up and up, less and less people are going to even see clips of Michael Jordan. They'll know him for the shoes, but not as much for the basketball. So that's just natural. And then pretty soon it'll be Wemby, or whoever the next player after that ends up being. That's just a natural progression through time. In terms of who actually should be, listen, it's so hard to compare era to era, so hard to do, but that it's something I enjoy doing. I would say, I think I hold it in more regard. I like it, the longevity argument. I understand 6 is a bigger number. I understand this, but what LeBron has done for as long as he has, and to me, he's more well-rounded. So we keep focusing on his scoring, but LeBron, a little more well-rounded in my opinion, and in a lot of seasons, in a lot of games, not looking to be a scoring first option.
Right. Well, I did want to make this, again, another kind of second follow-up question, because I love any opportunity. I'm the only person I think of my age who thinks that Wilt Chamberlain is the greatest player of all time, not Michael Jordan. I don't think Jordan ever passed him. And so I want to bring up something. We talked about how, obviously LeBron James, to get this record, it took him, I have it here, 1,523 games, right? It took Michael Jordan 1,072. So it took, LeBron 500 more games to get this record than it took Jordan. Wilt Chamberlain did it in 944, so less than 1,000. You look at career 50-point games. Michael Jordan is second all time with 31. Wilt Chamberlain has 118. You look at 30-30 games. That's 30 points, 30 rebounds. Bill Russell is second all time with 7 of those types of games. Wilt Chamberlain has 126 of those types of games, right? I mean, we're talking about a guy who absolutely obliterated his competition, was the Babe Ruth of his era, right? But like I said, I think that so many people now don't remember seeing him play, because nobody who watches the game now remembers seeing him play, because I didn't see him play. I was born after he retired. The guy retired 50 years ago. He still holds 70 NBA records that haven't been broken. So again, I'm going to go back to you, Gabriel, on your thoughts here. Again, the Wilt Chamberlain crowd, I think when you look statistically, Michael Jordan never passed Wilt, and yet he became the greatest of all time. And I think that's because Wilt's fans died off. Do you think that's, like you said, inevitable where it's going to happen with Jordan as well?
Oh, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar should be in this conversation as well, undoubtedly, but it's the same thing, unfortunately. And me personally, I'm never someone to go strictly off of stats. What impact did you bring to the game? So that's why Steph Curry could even have a shout here eventually, not yet. And I'm not saying his play is going to further his resume. I'm saying the recency memory of Steph Curry could elevate him in GOAT conversation. So yeah, to me, it goes above stats. To me, again, it's the longevity, what he's done, all that pressure that LeBron James had from a young age, far surpassed it, far exceeded it. And then the player movement. I'm okay with him moving, and he won a championship in 3 different places. To me, that means something. I do like what you're saying though, about Wilt Chamberlain, and I don't know why we just completely gloss over him in these GOAT conversations. In terms of what Michael Jordan did do, he did have that killer mentality. He did have that, where he's going to make that final shot. So that's something no one can ever take away from him. So I would be more than okay with people clinging on to him a little more too.
Well, I would actually say that the difference between Wilt Chamberlain and Michael Jordan is probably a $10 million cable TV deal. That's why people know Jordan or Wilt Chamberlain.
Yes.
Michael, your thoughts again, 60 seconds to wrap this kind of up with LeBron, Jordan, Wilt, all that.
All right. So I think it depends on what you like, right? We're talking about what we like as NBA players, each one of us. Maybe you like Steph and his 3-point shooting, and that's what you think is impressive. Maybe you like Wilt and the more overall, that he had the rebounds and the scoring. Maybe you like more LeBron to where he has the passing, the rebounds, and the scoring. He doesn't have a whole lot of each one, but he has enough of each of them to where it's like, wow, I like that complete player. Oscar Robertson, we haven't brought his name up either. Another really fantastic basketball player from yesteryear. So I think it's strictly what you like. And I also think it can't be strictly off stats. Gabriel said that earlier. I was writing some stuff down that Gabriel was saying so that I could bring it back up here in just a second. And here's one of my things. LeBron James will never be the best for me because of a couple of off the field things. When you go to a USC game for your son and you don't take off your hat and you don't stand up for the national anthem, that's all it takes for me. I'm never going to put him in this conversation because of something like that. And I'll let you guys discuss.
Brad, your final thoughts.
So, both of these guys are right when it comes to, it is your own personal preference. And a guy that has not been mentioned in this topic, and for me, the absolute most fun, dynamic person that I have ever seen on a basketball floor was Magic Johnson. That's mine. Nobody's even brought his name up, and I get it. His numbers, you're talking about numbers aren't everything. His numbers are not what Wilt had and even LeBron or, whatever. But as far as I got to grow up and I got to see him and I got to watch him on the floor, there's never been somebody as dynamic as him. Now, LeBron and Jordan, I'll give you Wilt. Wilt dominated in an era that was completely different than what we see now. And, he didn't have the competition, so he had a lot of 30 rebound games and had those stats and those numbers. And a lot of other these players that we mentioned didn't get to have that.
I think that's fair. And again, I kind of agree with all you guys. I've been watching basketball. I've been playing basketball since I was 9 years old. And my thing is watching television, watching the games, watching highlights of guys who I didn't get a chance to see live. I will never put LeBron James ahead of Michael Jordan. I can never do that. And it's not because I'm a LeBron hater. I love LeBron James. He was one of my favorite players when he came into the league. The reason is because he just won't kill you. He has the ability to kill you, but he won't. And Jordan would kill you. Kobe would kill you. And so I tell people my LeBron story is that series where he was with the Cavaliers and they lost to the Warriors and Kyrie got hurt, right? And LeBron, I think, averaged 38, 14, and 11 for the NBA championship series. I said, that's the best basketball I've ever seen anyone play. Better than Jordan, better than Kobe, that basketball, I've never seen anyone play like that. But that's the only time I ever saw him play like that. I've seen him give up and quit way more than I've seen him put up that kind of effort.
And I got to throw Kobe in here. He's one of my favorite players as well. I don't think there are far and few players ever that has laced up a pair of tennis shoes that had the mentality, that killer instinct that Kobe had on the floor. And he brought it every single night his entire career.
So our next topic, we're going to keep it in basketball. And speaking of killers versus complainers, we're going to be talking about a complainer, and that is Anthony Edwards of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Recently came out complaining about other teams double teaming him. He said, "I'm only 23. I don't want to just be passing the ball all night." And then said, "I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know what to do, honestly." And he's talking about these double teams and how he doesn't really know how to combat these double teams. Now, obviously, he's not the first guy ever to be double teamed. People have been double teamed since they had peach baskets. Anytime there's somebody taller or faster, you got double teamed. You figure out a way to fight through it. You get your teammates. Brad, I'm going to start with you. What is your thought on Anthony Edwards saying that he can't figure out double teams and how it's not fair that he has to pass the ball?
God, where do you start with this one? I mean, come on now. I mean, first of all, I find it funny. I mean, I'm just going to be honest with you. I mean, it's basketball, and I've been a coach. On the other side of this is a coach that's telling him to double team the best player on the floor. I mean, that's like basketball 101. I mean, that's just how the game is played. And he says he doesn't want to pass, or he doesn't just want to set and pass. I hate to tell you, but basketball is a team sport, first of all. And when you pass the ball, when you get double teamed and you pass the ball, they have to recover. So when they recover, you can get the ball back. That's how the game works. I mean, you use your teammates to get open. It's not all in this day and age, especially in NBA. Everybody has the mentality that you have to create your own and get your own. And that's where this game, as far as the NBA is going wrong. Learn a team game to start with. That would be nice.
Gabriel, your thoughts on Anthony Edwards being completely perplexed by double teams?
I don't even know how he thought this was a good idea to say out loud. I really don't. First of all, you should take it as a compliment if you're being double teamed. It means the other side views you as the guy that needs to be stopped. Second of all, like, there's so much you can do out of a double team. You can pass out of a double team. At this point, you should be anticipating the double team, so you could beat the guy to the spot out of a double team. Kobe, he'll shoot over the double team. Yeah, you can do that. More importantly, your off-ball movement can be better. If you don't want to do any of that, if you don't want to pass, just have better off-ball movement, and you don't even have to worry about that. So what he's really saying is, I don't want to have to work harder than what I have been this entire time in order for me to get points. And that's really, to me, that shows complete opposite of an MJ, complete opposite of a Kobe, from someone who has the chance to potentially be the next face of the league. Quite the opposite mindset.
And Michael, your thoughts on the double team kerfuffle?
I like being last in this thing, but none of the two other guys are going to take all my thunder. So I wrote, being double teamed is an honor, right? You should take that as a badge of honor. You're the guy that the other team has chosen to double team. That means you're the best, as Brad said, you're the best person on the floor, right? So someone's open. How about pass the ball? Find the open man, right? The greats do more than shoot. Michael Jordan in his 5th season, in an article that was well written by someone on this panel in the top left corner of this screen, right? If you haven't gone to Stadium Rant and read Wayne's article on this topic, you need to do that. Fantastic article, by the way. And that's not just me sucking up. That's, from a guy who writes for another website. That was a really great article. So
Take all the time you need, Michael.
Take all the time you need. Turn the clock off. Ask instead of complain. There are plenty of guys who have been double teamed on the NBA floor that you can talk to. They'll all talk to you and give you advice. Coach instead of complain. Part of this is the coaching, and it should be held accountable by his head coach. He said, that's not how I want to play. And maybe not. But it's not. But it is. Hang on here. So maybe not. But it's how your team needs you to play to win. And that's what you do as a team sport.
I agree. And I also kind of agree with what Gabriel was saying when he was saying, movement away from the ball. And I brought this up earlier. We live now in an isolation league where the shot clock is taken up by crossovers and dribbles and behind the back dribbles by one player who dribbles out 20 seconds and then shoots a 3-point shot. So when you say off the ball movement, if I'm a modern day NBA player, I'm like, are you talking Aramaic, Sanskrit? What does that mean? So, but no, there's definitely ways to combat that. Now, my question for you guys, going back around the horn, and again, I'll start with you, Brad, is, obviously we're seeing this softer league. Now, Anthony Edwards is the first one to speak up, but that doesn't mean he's going to be the last. In baseball, we saw the shift, and the shifts got outlawed, mainly because you had players who you're like, well, to beat the shift, just hit it opposite field. And they said, yeah, but I really want to hit it over there. And so they outlawed the shift. Well, now we have a guy complaining about double teams. How long before enough people complain about double teams that it gets outlawed in the NBA?
Lord, I hope not, is all I got to say, Wayne. You're right. I mean, baseball did do that. And this basketball league and all the isolation and all the stuff that's going on, I mean, I could see it happening. I'm not saying that it won't happen. I could definitely see it happening for sure, as far as them trying to take away a shift in the defense as a double team or something. I could actually see that happening in the day and time that we live in. But I want to remind some people of, I just talked about Kobe in this situation. For this situation, I mean, I can remember watching games where we're talking about double teams here. I can remember where Kobe was getting chased by 4 guys on his team at times. I mean, there was literally 4 guys around him, and Kobe had the mentality that he was still going to get the best of you, even with 4.
Gabriel, your thoughts on the potential of the double team going the way of the shift?
Yeah, what did Kobe say? You better bring one more. You better send one more.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna get my buckets. So, good God, I hope not. Only because it's so the basketball moves and what basketball players offensively can do right now, it's so dynamic that it's so hard to be an ISO defender, to defend one-on-one. This would completely ruin the game if they did. I really hope they won't. And let's hope that the Greg Popoviches of the world, that they stay in the ear of Adam Silver, because this would be for something that's already viewed as unwatchable for a lot of general sports fans. I think this would make it absolutely completely unwatchable and a complete clown show. Can I just say a quick side note on the shift? It was the most glorious thing back in the day of the shift when a person would just hit it to the opposite side and get a nice free single. Oh, beautiful. Yeah. What a day that was. What a day.
Well, I actually remember a story, and I thought it was a great story, and Michael, I'll get to you in just a second, but it was a story about Ted Williams, because the shift went on for years. And I mean, Ted Williams, they used to shift against him because he would pull the ball. And I remember Ted Williams was such a good hitter that he said, I could hit opposite field because I'm good enough to do that, but I'm going to hit into the shift, and I'm still going to hit 400. That's how good I am.
Yes.
Yeah.
Michael, your thoughts on, again, the potential of the double team going away?
I don't think the double team's never going to go away, because what Gabriel said is 100% true. I've not watched an NBA game all season long. It's unwatchable for me. It's just run, shoot, run, dunk, run, shoot, run, dunk. That's all it is. They don't play really defense anymore. And for him to complain, first of all, that he's being double teamed is a joke. They switched the shift in baseball. I'm a big baseball guy, if you can't tell from behind me. Excuse me. They did that because they were stifling the offense and they were stifling the entertainment. If you know what the guy's going to do, and then you just put everybody there and he can't adjust, then there's going to be no offense. There's going to be no excitement. And that's why baseball banned the shift. As far as Anthony Edwards goes, you got to remember, too, he's 23 years old. All right. Everybody in this, well, maybe Gabriel might not be 23 yet, but Brad, I've got you beat. I'm 51. So we've all done and said stupid things at the age of 23. Okay, especially with a mic in our face and a bunch of reporters and cameras clicking around us. He said it's super hard to stay engaged when he's double teamed, and then it's frustrating. And I understand that. But what he's really saying, and I'm stealing something from a couple other articles here. He's basically saying, you know what? Just keep double teaming me because it's working. And if you don't think it's working, last Thursday versus the Boston Celtics, he went 5 for 16 with 15 points. yet people were comparing him to Michael Jordan just a short while ago.
Well, another great way to beat the double team, I think, because the double teams usually happen in the corners and at the top of the key. And the best way to beat a double team, learn how to hit a mid-range jumper. I shouldn't be a better mid-range shooter than NBA players, but I am. Like Anthony Edwards is a gold medalist, NBA All-Star, and I could probably beat him in a foul shooting contest.
Do they do that in the NBA anymore?
Exactly. What is a mid-range jumper?
Chris Paul was the last one.
Yeah.
Our last topic covers basketball as well, and this one covers women's basketball, which I actually prefer to the men's because there is mid-range jumpers. And it covers Juju Watkins, who is an amazing player, by the way. She's averaging 24.9 points per game in her sophomore season at USC. She averaged 27-1 last year. Stephen A. Smith said we should be talking about Juju Watkins the way we talked about Caitlin Clark last year. Now, my issue with this, and I'm going to put it to the panel here, and obviously we'll start with Gabriel, but last year was Caitlin Clark's senior year, her fourth year as an All-American. She was averaging 30 points a game, not 24.9, 30. She had broken Pete Maravich's record for most points scored in a college career, men or women, right? And so Stephen A. thinks because, Juju is a good player, we should be talking about her the same way we talked about a 4-year All-American. I'm curious to get your thoughts on the sort of praise and spotlight we should be putting on Juju.
Yeah, so for me, were there a lot of moments last year where I personally had Caitlin Clark fatigue? It's like, okay, well, she didn't earn women the right to vote, so we're going a little overboard here, right? But in terms of what she did on the court, she did galvanize and she did inspire a whole new generation of women's hoopers, and it's because of that 4 years experience in college. And so it's a little bit of apples to oranges, what Stephen A. is saying. Where Stephen A. Smith is right is in his sentiment, in that just because Caitlin Clark isn't at the college level anymore doesn't mean that there aren't incredible players still playing and that we should still be highlighting them. Not the entire Caitlin Clark push, and that's what it was to me, a push. What she's already doing, Juju Watson as a sophomore, incredible. Hannah Hidalgo at Notre Dame, incredible. So players like that, undeservedly, in my opinion, do deserve more of the spotlight.
And your thoughts, Michael, on whether or not Stephen A. is right that, Juju deserves the same kind of attention that Caitlin got last year?
Well, first of all, I can't stand Stephen A. Smith. He's just a loudmouth broadcaster. That's all he is. He says whatever can get himself some attention, and he's doing it right here with this. To be honest with you, when you sent me this question, Wayne, I didn't even know who Juju Watkins was. I had to look this up. I've never watched a WNBA game in my life, and I don't plan on it. I've got too much other things to do with my time, like real sports. We'll just toss that out there and leave it alone, right? So her goal, she said, is to break the all-time scoring record. And I'll tell you this: it's nice to have goals. I wish the people that I supervised at my job all had goals, because that's nice. Even if you don't hit them, to have it and to strive for it is fantastic, and I'll give her a ton of credit for that. Watkins, as of this past yesterday, played in her 50th game. She has 1,318 points, and Clark in her 50th game had 328 points, and both of them had their 50th game during their sophomore season. She also said, "I wish I played like her, so I can tell that Watkins is humble," and I like that part about her too. They met once, and she said Clark offered and gave me her number. And so I'll give Caitlin Clark some credit there. That's fantastic to do for women's basketball. Just don't expect me to watch.
And Brad, your thoughts on giving Juju the same kind of spotlight?
Well, first of all, Stephen A. is dead wrong. And the reason why Stephen A. is dead wrong on this is because at this point in Caitlin Clark's career, 1st of January of her sophomore year, hardly anybody across the country even knew who she was. So if you're comparing their careers, Juju Watkins is miles ahead of where Caitlin Clark was at the same stage of their career. It's not even close. So Stephen A. is saying she deserves Caitlin Clark's fans. As far as attention, she has far exceeded it already if you compare their careers at the same time. If he is saying that he thinks a sophomore who is averaging 24 points a game should have the same amount of fanfare that a 4-time All-American had, then quite honestly, Stephen A is insane, because that's just not. I mean, honestly, I mean, he's not even comparing the same thing. I mean, it's
Right.
apples and oranges, just like I think Gabriel is the one that said that.
Now, I'm a big fan of women's basketball. I actually prefer women's basketball to men's basketball.
I
It's
cover
just,
women's basketball.
yeah, it's just a better team sport. So I wanted to bring up, because Gabriel talked about other people out there besides, Caitlin Clark, besides Juju Watkins. I'm a huge fan. I mean, look at Tanya Watson out of FSU, Florida State, unbelievable player. And even if you go to like a freshman, Ohio State has a Jelani Cambridge. You watch her play; she's unreal for a freshman. So my question is, this is where I think Juju could be game breaking the same way that Caitlin was in terms of getting attention. Gabriel, what are your thoughts that Juju Watkins and how good she is and how good this crop of players behind her is could make the WNBA change their rules and allow players to leave early?
Ooh, that's interesting. I don't think that they should, because the most attention is on is at the college level for right now. And so I think that would actually maybe would benefit the players individually, but I think it would hurt women's sports on that side. And to be clear, I think the men's side should raise the age, because too often they come out of college and they're underprepared. So I think I would be okay with women's lowering it, but I think the men's for sure should raise it. But yeah, this is where we get to know. This is the best chance that we have to get to know women's players, women's teams. Let me give the team on my hat, the name on my hat, a shout to Britt Prince, freshman from Nebraska. She's up there too. I promise you, she can score at all levels. So yeah, there's incredible players at all levels. I think the longer that they stay in college, whether by a rule change or voluntarily wanting to stay the 4 years, get their degree, I think that would serve the game and women's sports in general a little better.
And Michael, your thoughts on the potential, I guess, for lowering the age or allowing underclassmen to enter the draft?
I think the WNBA needs this, don't you? I mean, the WNBA has compared to other sports. They just now got team flights this past year because they had to do everything by bus. That's how low their payroll and stuff is. That's how minuscule everything was for them. And I think if they can get some of these ladies who are really, really good that you guys were talking about to come out early and come into their sport, I think they could get more money off of them. I mean, obviously, you want the younger people to come in and give you 12 years instead of somebody who's a senior that comes in and only gives you 10 years, right? So I think you can see some real push from the WNBA to try to get these people out of the college ranks and into their league.
And Brad, you cover women's basketball, college basketball. What are your thoughts on the idea of lowering the age for the WNBA draft?
I mean, it doesn't make sense, and here's why. The WNBA doesn't have the money to do that. They can't pay these players enough money to do that, especially with the NIL that is going on now in college basketball. I mean, you've got girls. I mean, Juju Watkins is making $2 or $3 million at a minimum, maybe more than that, out at USC. Caitlin Clark, as the number one pick in the WNBA draft, made $80,000. $80,000. And that's a 3-year deal. I mean, the WNBA just doesn't have the money to be able to do that for these girls. I mean, Gabriel's right. The women's sports, it's in college basketball, especially with the NIL. I mean, if they could stick around and play an extra year and get that 5th year or whatever, that's huge for women's sports, to be quite honest.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I was actually going to say that if you didn't bring it up, I was going to say, why would I leave a $3 million a year job to go make $80,000 a year? Like, you could remove the age limit. I'm going to stay in college for 4 years.
Exactly. I mean, it doesn't make sense. There's no way in the physical landscape of women's sports that you could possibly do that right now.
But I do want to add, because I don't follow this a whole lot, but from a business standpoint, right? I've run 2 or 3 businesses. You've got to do something to get revenue into your business. Isn't this a way for the WNBA to do that? To be able to pull those people in earlier, even if they have to pay them more? You've got to do something, because there's a lot of teams right now that are either breaking even or not making any money. And what's keeping them afloat is the NBA. So don't you have to have a different business model here?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of moving parts. And that's the thing. Like I said, if you're going to say, all right, well, we're going to try to get this talent into the WNBA, how do we pay them? Do we start doing something like the MLS does, where we have 1 player or 2 designated players that can make more than the salary cap? Whatever it is, I mean, there's something that has to be done, because right now, if I'm one of these girls, I'd be like, I'm not leaving college. I'm going to do the Diego Pavia thing or whatever he's doing over at Vanderbilt. I'm going to stay for 7 years, 8 years in college and make as much as I
Listen,
can.
guys, the highest paid WNBA player is less than $250,000. It's $241,000. She's the highest paid player in the WNBA. Okay, like I said, Juju Watkins is $3 million in NIL. I mean, you do the math.
Right, but that's why Brittany Griner got in trouble, right? Because she had to go overseas to make more money, right?
Right. Yeah, that's why she was over there. Yeah.
Plus, all the buzz and excitement is right now coming from college. So I think leaving that too early would actually end up hurting the WNBA longer term. Plus, we saw the ratings. The ratings are decently up. Now, ESPN's pushing it a decent amount. So as long as the NBA is still willing and able to fork the bill, I think they're on an okay trajectory right now. I'm talking just strictly business-wise. But in terms of the on-court product, in terms of the on-court product, I like where the WNBA and where women's college hoops is heading. I really do.
Oh, I agree with that 100%.
I'm going to do one sentence and leave you guys alone, Wayne. I know you're trying to get a little bit of control of this here real quick. But so you're saying ESPN is pushing this product with some loudmouth guy on TV?
Hey, it gets attention to the sport, right?
Work with me.
So that is the show. I do appreciate everybody. I'm going to let everyone go around and give one more shout out to where you can find more of them. If you like what you heard on the show today, you can get their stuff exclusively. You can get other people that work with these people. But obviously, I think this was a great show. I think we keep getting better every episode. But Brad, I'll start with you. If somebody wants to find more of your stuff, more of your content, where can they go?
Go to College Sportscast. Look me up on Facebook, or I have a Twitter account, CSCast_. Mine is the Brad CS Cast on Twitter as well. You can find College Sportscast on YouTube. We do 2 to 3 shows a week. I'm currently covering Kentucky women's basketball as a credentialed media, and I have a Big Blue Hoops Cast show that I do for them as well. And I'm on Apple and all of that. You can find me in a lot of different places. And I do an audio version of what we do on Apple and Podbean and everywhere else. So look me up.
All right. And Gabriel, that's kind of like you're like Justin Thomas following Tiger Woods here on the tee box with the announcer. Where can people find your stuff?
I'm on the X, Curious Sports Pulse, at Sports Pulse 100, and YouTube, Curious Sports Pulse. Just want to thank Michael, Brad, for the debate and fun discussions, and Wayne, thank you for hosting. It was fun.
Absolutely. And Michael.
Well, I agree with Gabriel, Wayne. I want to thank you for allowing me to come on the broadcast with you. Gabriel, Brad, thank you for the banter back and forth. I certainly appreciate it. The symbol behind me is the symbol that we use for our sports broadcasting. You can find me, as it says right there on the screen, at the 643 and out pod. We're trying to combine baseball and football. So 643 like a double play in baseball, and 3 and out like you can't make a first down in football. So we smashed those two together and came up with the 643 and out pod. I am also a writer, editor, and recruiter for www.WeLikeSportsWithAZSportzPC.com. One half of the 643 and out guys with my buddy Mitch Middlebrook. We have a podcast every Tuesday, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, called The Sports, also spelled with a Z, Truth. We can be found on YouTube, on X, Twitter, Twix, whatever the heck you want to call it now. We're on Facebook, and we are on Apple Podcast as well.
All right. And I am Wayne Gregoire, and I write for StadiumRant.com. You can check out my articles there. If you do enjoy me in the video format, I am here every other Thursday hosting Stadium Ranters with a group of other podcasters and writers. As I mentioned, great show. Thank you, everybody who watched the show. Thank you, everybody who liked the show. And thank you to our participants, especially. It's been a great time.